Excited for hot. Welcome to Conscious Heart Solutions. I have my super fabulous guests today, Christopher Jacobs, Joanna Michaels, and Sean Bond, and Miss Lily Hayes. Thank you all for joining me. Today we're going to have an amazing discussion on Kundalini energy and sex magic. And I have some information, textbook information of what that really is, but I know this discussion is going to really, go in different directions, different perspectives, but I think it's going to be a fun conversation. And I trust that information that's needed to get out there, people will resonate with it, and they'll be able to do their own research. And some of us, I've had a Kundalini awakening. So it wasn't all peachy creamy. I think there's a misnomer or misunderstanding that, Kundalini awakening and everything becomes all love. And I mean, I guess for some people that's the case. That was not my experience. My experience was, yes, I felt that bliss and the joy from it, but I also, I was in fear of my own power. I can be honest about that now. I didn't understand what was happening. And then I had to clear all the chakras of all the darkness and all the things that I had, that I needed to have a look at. So anyways, Miss Lily, would you like to open up the show as well and co-host with me? Go ahead.
Absolute honor. Thank you so much. It's really beautiful to be back here with everyone with our awesome extra edition of Joanna. So thank you so much for joining us. I am a huge fan. I have been watching yours and Chris's videos and just think that you two are such a powerhouse duo. For you to be reunited within this lifetime and shining your medicine together is a real treat to watch. And I've learned so much from both of you. And Sean, you know how much I love and appreciate your beautiful presence in my life and along my journey. Together, these two gentlemen here with us this evening for me, but today for you, have really, really helped me in so many ways. The last roundtable that we did, we dove into some really interesting topics to do with my eldest son, who has had some real interesting stuff lingering around him for quite some time. And I'm happy to check in and say we still continue to see more and more loving progress every single day. He has his moments, but he's so much more able to step into his loving heart space during those times. And I'm also able to hold that space for him on such a high level that I didn't even know was possible. So thank you both so much for your wisdom that you shared and your amazing healing abilities that you also shared in that moment. So thank you. Just had to take a moment to acknowledge that. Yes, so today I'm over here in Australia. It is 2:46 a.m. and there's nothing else I'd rather wake up for than to come and join you all. We're diving down the rabbit hole of Kundalini energy, sex magic, and all things sacred sexuality on this show. And I think that everyone here has got a lot to be able to contribute to this discussion. So I will hand it over to you, Chris and Joanna, if you'd like to introduce yourselves quickly, and then we'll jump down to Sean. I'll give a little bit of a background on myself after, and we'll start to get into some topics.
Okay, you go first, Joanna.
So, hi everybody. My name is Joanna Michaels, and Chris and I started more public work back in January 2017 when we decided to do what we refer to as the lifting and the lifting shows. We started first with audio kind of podcasts and then went on to more of Zoom. So we have a lot of things that we talk about on the show, really pretty much all topics we cover. But one of the biggest areas that we feel that we want to contribute to is bringing everybody's awareness of the full picture of what is seen and what is unseen that affects your lives on a daily basis. And with the goal of more personal sovereignty and you being able to be your genuine, authentic self, which is very important. But there's, in our opinion, there was a huge knowledge deficit of what was really out there and what was really affecting you. We're big believers that knowledge is power and that many things should not be feared at all. Although throughout time and history and the human presence, fear has been used a lot to even control exploration of different subjects and everything that would potentially lead to, you know, more of your spiritual journey. So we talk about everything, you name it, we've probably talked about it, but the goal is always an empowerment, to let go of certain fears, and then to learn how to maneuver in the world better, in better control of your life and what you want. And again, being co-creative beings that we are, how to co-create in a way that benefits yourself and not somebody else. So, but there's a lot there. And again, and so that's been kind of the big journey we've been on for the last 4.5 years.
Yeah, and then on my end of it, yeah, we, you know, people hire me to do land clearings, clear their own auric fields, their own energy fields, get rid of attachments, demonic presences, demonic magic and spells, anything of that negative nature that some people usually are afraid to go into, you know, and yeah, it can be creepy, but it's necessary to have someone to actually clear those things or knows how to clear those things. And that's what people usually hire me for. And the both of us, we do outreach at psychic fairs and do lectures and things of that nature. And we do our recorded show that she mentioned. You know, we have over 800 videos on YouTube right now, some on Patreon. And where people can get a hold of us is the lifting.net. Like if they want to get a hold of me for a session, or if they want to see a list of the shows, or links to both the Patreon and the YouTube, they're both on there.
Beautiful. Thank you both so much. And yes, definitely recommend tuning in and checking out some of their material. There is a wealth of wisdom in there, and you always have a whole heap of different characters coming through from some of your channeling as well, which has been a real treat to tune into as well. So thank you both so much. And Sean, can you jump on in here and give us a bit of an intro into what you're up to at the moment?
Sure. I'm Sean Bond of the Psionic League, and I go into unlocking dormant abilities inside people and reverse engineering blueprints for them, as well as overcoming many challenges, because as people rise into their power, it's like a flame that moths like to flock to. So go into targeted individuals and healing those, and helping as much as I can with the planet and all the stressful things that's going on in its birthing process. And yeah, teach people to be empowered in whatever career they want to take up and be successful in all those arenas, similar to what we're going in today with the sacral. And yeah, I've currently been working on my website more frequently and putting up products that will be purchasable in like all types of skill sets, abilities that people want to put onto their tool belt. And yeah, lovely to be on the show today. Thank you both for all of you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Really honored.
Awesome, thank you. A quick little intro into who I am and what I'm up to at the moment. So my name is Lily Hayes. I'm intuitive multidimensional healer from down in South Australia. I tend to help a lot of people that have been through complex trauma and help them release the pain bodies and transmute them. But my real focus, and it's sort of someone comes to me for that type of situation, but my super duper passion, which I'm really enjoying diving deeper into, is being able to help activate people's light bodies and DNA coding, and through different forms of energetic healing, but also through toning and light language. I also am very grateful and honored to be called by the ancestors to work on the land and to be able to clear trapped spirits from the land and entities, and to be able to reactivate certain sacred spaces within this beautiful planet, whether it be physically or remotely. So that's sort of me in a nutshell. Yeah, so Miss Ida, is there anything that you have been wanting to dive into to get the show started before I go off on a tangent? I've got a couple of things up my sleeve that I think could be pretty cool.
Okay, well, no, not really, other than I do prefer to keep it focused on the topic because I think a lot of people are probably very excited. If they're not watching the live, they will go to the YouTube and have a listen. And I've let a lot of people know that all of you will be on today. So I definitely want to keep it as best we can focus on the topic, which is sex, magic, Kundalini activation, sacral or sacred sex, whatever, you know. I mean, I've read up on this. Again, I've shared, a lot of people that know me know that I have shared that I've had my own Kundalini activation. I think it's an experience that is very personal to everyone that's ever had it. And I think, I think it's important because there's a lot of, when people hear sex magic, there's a lot of misunderstanding of what that is. I'm not saying that it can't be or hasn't been used for negative purposes, although it can be used for very good and healing purposes as well. So I think it's important to stay focused on that. Anyways,
Perfect.
you're doing a great job. You always do, Lily. So I'm okay. And if I feel, I'll just do that. But I'm
Awesome.
here to share the platform with you guys. I'm not,
Yeah,
that's
no
it.
worries. Thank you so much. All right. Well, perhaps maybe we'll start off the show by getting a little bit of a personal take on what everyone's sort of take is on the topic of sacred sexuality and Kundalini energy. So I guess it's sort of two-part street. So before we dive into the sex magic, maybe if we could start off with just a little bit of an understanding of your perspectives on sacred sexuality and the sacral energy.
I think that's a great, that's perfect because
awesome.
that's where I was going to go anyway. So great.
Yeah, no worries.
So.
All right, beautiful. Chris and Joanna, do you want to get started there?
You want to go first?
That's fine.
Yeah.
So when this topic came up, I actually have to be quite honest with you. I am not a person who has been well versed all their life on all these different subject matters that come up. So I literally had to look up, do I understand what they mean by Kundalini, or what is the known definition, let's say, of that energy? What I literally got out of it, and I'm going to say really quickly for those who may be themselves wondering, is what's actually written, if you look it up, kind of in a nutshell, is that it's basically an energy that starts, from the base of your spine. And it over time, again, you have to remember this Kundalini energy, and when it was described and when people were starting to work on it was quite a while ago. So again, when things are written and they're discussed in the concept of the known information at the given time. So keep that in perspective, because I think now if current people would be adding more information to the old definitions, which is probably some of what we're going to end up doing today from our perspective. So Kundalini, it was described as a feminine energy. It basically located, and then the goal of a true Kundalini awakening is basically when that energy is able to travel freely up through the chakras, and an energy flow that basically occurs within your body that's unimpeded, that is more controlled, again, as I was saying, with the sovereignty of the person, with the person themselves, and that energy starts really flowing. Now, a lot of people always think of Kundalini is great sex. That's a lot where everybody's mind, boom, it straight goes. It's one potentially of the benefits of having those energies run well, that you have heightened pleasure sensors with all that energy running through. So the answer would be yes, but it is a mythos to think that it's only related to that. It's a potential positive side effect of having your energies flow well, but there's so many other aspects in your life where if you're having these energies flow freely, it makes you more accessible to even collecting information and data and bringing it down into yourself to utilize in your life. So there's a lot to the running of energies in general. I think for a lot of people that get into Reiki and things like that, the whole concept is the running of the energies and the healing based off the goal of a good clearing to have a good energy running in others. So this really can expand in a lot of areas, but that's the basis of which, you know, my understanding was, and then the sexual side. For Chris and I, we oftentimes, again, want to have the full discussion of it, which means we're going to talk about things of why are these energies blocked? Why are these things not running as well? Historically, it looked like the Kundalini energies, one of the ways that people worked on opening these channels were things like yoga, you know, and some of the other arts that were done for in that particular way helped them clear and run energies. But as times moved on, there are many different ways, you know, to unblock energies and to get them running, you know, even better through your body. So, you know, it's a great discussion because I think what can be added here from everyone is more of a new spin, new conversation to be inclusive, because the one thing that I don't like to see done is when people focus so hard on something and they don't feel they're attaining it. And then this cycle of shame, blame, and guilt starts to happen, which is going to keep you from getting there anyway. So I will tell you that from a lot of people who work in this area that I was looking around, one of the big things that they say is, don't try to force this, because, you know, the art, and I think it's funny because you hear everybody talking about the art of awakening. It's really the running of the energies and making sure things are clear. You know, you want it to be the fluffy cloud and everyone's, oh, but really it can be through the trenches, and the clearing of these spaces really can be something that a lot of people are like, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I don't want to have anything, because this is like, isn't what I was told it was supposed to be, and I must be a failure. I'm, you know, and the shame, blame, and guilt start. So I'd like to, hopefully within this discussion, free people up a little bit as well to just continue on their journey. And the goal is always to open the pathways to let the energies run more, you know, run better and run easier, so that you are open to a lot more, so you can expand. And then a lot of things happen to you in that state.
Mm-hmm. You know, when I was younger, you know, I ran into a variant of different beings and different situations that were sexual in nature that tried to prevent me from getting past a certain stage in that area. You know, where not only did some of these beings try to get me addicted to certain imagery or certain things, but what they also tried to do was block me from finding and going through that complete evolutionary process. But in the process, what they did was they triggered things a little bit faster. They sped things along to where I gained an understanding quickly. Just like when I was roughly 14, there were these female beings that would come to me and be very seductive and be very, you know, they were nice to look at, you know, nice to be around. And I didn't realize they were as evil as sin. So they would come around me, and for years, I was in my 20s before I realized that so this was what they were doing was actually wrong. So I was so enamored with it. There was a spell that had been put on me. It was a negative form of sex magic that had been placed on me. Well, granted, that also linked to my secret space program junk as well, which I did not know about either at that time. They took that out of the file cabinet and tried to use it against me, is essentially what it was. But what they did was they triggered a process that they knew after a while they wouldn't be able to control. And essentially, from what I understand it, that was their role. They came in, they ended up triggering something, and then I ended up taking it the rest of the way when I started waking this up. And it's been an arduous process. I'd like to tell everybody watching this that's finished. It's far from finished. It's a continuous process that it's extremely arduous. waking not only the Kundalini, but also spiritual energies, and getting rid of all that doesn't serve you completely. But more in line with the topic, what had happened was earlier on in my life, and I was explaining this to her a couple days ago, that when I was in my 20s, I would have, women, try to hit on me, do all this other stuff, and I wasn't responding to it. And what had happened was these other ladies, these etherical ladies, some of them were physical, some etherical, had put such a magical spell on me that I didn't recognize the human factor as equal to them. And they made it to where the negative part of the sex magic was so potent that anything a human woman would be able to do dulled in comparison. And so that had to even out over a period of time. And what happened was when I started to tap more into the positive, sexual magical areas, it began to even out. And so even now I can hear somebody yammering to try to get me to not talk about this, but it's like I can hear it on the right side of my head. Somebody's trying not to get me to do it. But what the point I'm making is there also are beings out there that will also help balance this out. I've run into this where there's like fairy-like beings and such that will help you reboost that back to where it's supposed to be. But even now, the damage has been done in certain areas to where I'm having to bring in that positive energy and positive affirmation to get that to continue to balance out. It's a pendulum swing. It's been doing this for years in that area. And as this was activating, as I'm going up the ladder in this area, it's evening more and more out. People are always surprised when I tell them that I'm still going through these processes. I'm still going through all of this. And because they figure because of what I do that I'm done with this already. I'm like, no, you're always going through this. And this is something that I personally have gone through. And yeah, it was really rough to start with the negative aspects. There's also the negative siphoning that goes on as well. I know this is probably not the area that you want to learn to go with this, but in the negative areas, of course, when you start tapping into the positive things, start going into more and more what it really is, the negative stuff will try to siphon this to get you rehooked onto all the other junk. And that's been an arduous process because I'm constantly seeing things around. And then you also have beings that show up. Of course, there's like naked ladies that walk through the walls. I see that a lot, actually. I'll turn around the corner. I'll see somebody sitting on a bed or looking through the window or something like that. And I'll be like, okay, which side are you on here? So I usually have to determine and discern which side they're on. If they're kind, they can walk around all they want, but it's like, but if they're negative and they're going to siphon the energy from the sacrum, which is what they do, is they either go from the inside the chakra, or they'll come around, from the back and try to siphon that out of you that way. But also there's good ones that can counterbalance them and get rid of that and help reactivate the positive sides of this. This is what I personally run into for years. Even before her and I met, I was running into a lot of this stuff, but I know a lot more about the subject now, about the negative and positive sides of the sexual magic and the sacrum, the sacred side of it and the negative side of it, more so than I ever have, the yin and the yang behind it.
Yeah, no, well, I'm glad that you went in that direction and you shared that information. So thank you so much, because goodness, can I relate to that in so many ways. And that's been a huge ongoing thing for me too. One of my biggest, presence within my clientele are a lot of people who have been gone through sexual trauma of some variety, and that can be the totally catastrophic at the hand of a pedophile, but it can also be sexual encounters in teen years gone wrong that have caused self-image issues and such. And for people to, when there's been a couple of clients that have become friends and I've been able to converse and share, it's ongoing work. Just because I may be able to help support people within these areas, it doesn't mean that it's not still going on. And I think that's so crucial for people to realize that even the people that are stepping into the role of a healer or a seed planter or whatever kind of term it is, as a leader that you'd like to take on, it doesn't mean that we're all polished gems, because no, we are beautiful, shiny gems. Yes. We're powerful. Yes. But gosh, do we ever have continuous stuff that we've got to stay on top of? And talking about the sexual energies and the good and the bad, I'm not sure what it is about my soul. I'm looking forward to booking some sessions with both of you two lovely gentlemen here and diving into this a bit deeper. But my soul seems to have been up to some extremely promiscuous activities over the years and a lot of sex magic. And, you know, I am aware of being a divinity birther, so I know that I have an extremely powerful sacred womb space. Everybody does. It's not to say that I'm an elite by any means, but I know that there's been a target on me within that space in that area. And I have been targeted and taken down some rabbit holes with this really alluring looking thing of like, come have some saucy fun down this hole. And it's like, do you really best serve my highest and greatest good? And now that I've been really trying to put that check in place and say, no, I can see where you're trying to take me. Then it comes to the side of, okay, I want to explore sexuality now that I have some new boundaries. I want to still be able to be a sensual, powerful being that can have these passionate encounters. But then, of course, there is that lower vibrational presence that can try and come through and siphon that energy. So it is really interesting, that contrast of going through your entire incarnation and many incarnations of having these different beings, these different energies come through to you, and really having to sit back and say, okay, which one are you? What side of the fence are you on? Where do you serve me versus how are you trying to serve yourself? So thank you for going down there, because I think a lot of people can relate and they don't even realize. In particular, porn addictions are through the roof these days with the complete, you know, I guess technology getting to the advanced stages that it's at. We're now getting to the stage where, you know, there's like VR programs and stuff that people can plug into for pornographic encounters. And not only that, but, you know, we've got a whole heap of stuff going on with places like Pornhub and the likes as well. So it's really at the click of a finger, and they have this thing, say click and say, yes, you're 18 years old or 21 if you're overseas. I'm not sure what the age limits are for porn overseas, but I mean, it doesn't take a 14-year-old much to say, yeah, I'm 18, but I'm going to go down this rabbit hole and get a severe porn addiction at a really young age. And that's some really extremely dirty energy that you've got to be extremely careful of. The parasitic energies that are within that space are absolutely huge. So that's something, again, that people really need to sit back and be able to work out, how can I detach from the parasitic energies that are part of that or those types of platforms. I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but I'd really love to jump down to you, Sean, if we can, and get your take on sacred sexuality before we go down off on other areas, which I think are definitely important to discuss. But yeah, hearing your thoughts on sacred sexuality, Kundalini energy would be great. Thank you, please.
Sure, a big topic, so I'm not going to cover like a certain percentage of it, but I'll touch on a bunch of things, and feel free to go into the directions you want to go into. And what we don't cover, we'll probably make into products later or something. Like, yeah, a lot of people are dealing with porn addictions and the dark side, so we'll see if we can get into that or whatever. With the sacral technology, after we make our strong foundation and root strong in how we survive in this world, our creational force and what we create and how we interact with everything goes into this. So the sacral is known for senses, creational energy and force, sexuality, sensuality, emotions, dreams, desire, Kundalini, lust, fantasy, water, you know, like the hormones of the body and the chemical factory aspect of that, and our creational factory that like we build upon, that you can see in multiple operating systems, like a tree of all the creations you've ever made in this life or other lives. Nightmares, divine masculine, feminine, the union between it, goals, fertility, womb, orgasm, pleasure, reception, projection, programming. There's a wellspring of source energy that comes out, like having to do with orgasm. Most people don't like tap into it its most sacred balance way, which would be pure source energy. Mostly people tap into the orgasm with creational energy, but you can. Sexual charge accumulation, pleasure receptors, sexual organs, the womb gate as the place of power in mostly women. Seminal fluid creator, there's like similar things with the women. Goodness, the menstrual cycle. There's like a thing with the G spot and the orientation of it and the shape, and also like there's kind of like one in the male that has to do with the the prostate, and that's kind of like a yin activation zone, and there's like a yin and a yang generator for both the sexual organs. There's more into sexual hormones, the birthing tech, egg technology, sexual urges and impulses, metamorphosis, beauty, attraction, repelling, also goes the law of attraction stuff. Physical object conjuration, so like going into creational magic in a greater way. Implant technology, pleasure, blame, replication, bifurcated birth, ancestral DNA creator, like past and future DNA lineage tech, divine domain, and like the aurora borealis concept for the body, like, and this awesome technology I found that there's a female saint that has this ability. It's like it's kind of weird phrasing. It's like violation proof or rape proof. Like someone like imprisoned this female saint, and the guards tried to rape her, and they found it was impossible to get her off the, like she had this weight that was, they couldn't get her up or like out of position or whatever, and she just kept praying. And so there's some interesting tech with that. There's many things to go down, so let me know like what you feel like talking about. Besides, I go heavy into Kundalini. There's aspects of a current that starts in the root of and the tailbone of the spine, that like a lot of dormant energies, depending on what you have in DNA or who you've been in the past. Multiple currents that can go up the spine that don't have to just apply to the type of snake energy, but other type of founder races and stuff. There's the succubus energy harvesting grid that's on our planet that's fairly plaguing, and then the secret history of the succubuses is like a sexual form of angels, like, and the sexual form of fae that Chris talked about. The harvesting energy rituals that go on the planet, the alchemical factory of the body, seminal retention, and how to overcome the releasing of your energy that's the finite amount called jing, and how to increase that in the amount, and how that increases the body's ability to function in many different ways, such as mental processing. How to overcome desire of external imprinted false or polarizing desire, and going into true infinite within desire of and then transmuting that into manifestation. Transmuting lust, which is a big problem with a lot of people that get overwhelmed with it, or overcoming impotence, so like the dynamic polarization of overactive or underactive. And many other avenues like dream sex, astral sex. We can go into a lot of things. What did you want to feel? What do you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think when it comes to the arena of sacred sexuality, it has such a plethora of different avenues that you can go to and explore. And Sean, I think you definitely just nailed like a whole series of different topics that really, like, almost every single one of those topics could have a 2-hour show as part of it. So maybe one of the things that I think would be really worth going into a little bit deeper to hear some of your perspectives on how people, well, one, the risks associated with watching pornographic content. So maybe risks isn't the right word, but yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I don't want to stay focused on pornographic stuff. I want to talk about, and I appreciate you, Lily, but I really want to talk about the Kundalini energy, how in a positive way, how we can use that energy and for sex magic, how we can protect ourselves from outside interference during making love and sacred sex. I don't want to, so you're not wrong. I just don't want it to be about,
absolutely.
I want to keep it on a more positive, and go ahead.
So if I can interject, because one of the first things that if I were asked to really, if I were in a room of people and I was asked to really kind of help people understand this conversation a little bit more, I always goes back to the running of the energies, the energy flows, how they're running in your body. That's again, more of the Kundalini aspect of it, which then potentially can lead to having a more excitable feeling sexual experience. So you got to kind of start in this one area first. And again, you have to start, as we've always done in the lifting, talking about yourself before trying to have an energetic exchange with someone else. So I want to share really quickly, when we talk on the lifting and do a lot of our shows, and we say, well, protect yourself, or we say, do something, we try to give an example of something that everybody can do as they're listening, or a little bit later to actually get a sense of what we're talking about. And then they can try it out themselves. It's because part of this is to convince yourself there is something to this. And then what can I do about it? So in that sense, it would be nice if everyone listening could attempt to try and feel an energy flow in their body. So this little exercise that I would say, and if you guys want to play along now or whatever, is just to try and see, do you even feel energies running in your body? Because when you get into the art of the Kundalini awakening and you get into all this stuff, it's active sensing all of the energy flow in your body. Now, in an orgasm, the energy is going to flow in your body. It's going to be in your mind. But when they get into all this Kundalini, it's the really feeling the energies flow through everywhere. So this is just a simple exercise that I just would like to put out there for some place for people to start. And so again, pretend in your hand, you have an energy ball. It's there. It's doing its thing. And you can feel it tingling on your hand. You can feel that ball literally present in your hand. Then think of that ball literally now going into your hand. Now it's within your hand. Well, then get that ball to go down your arm and through your body around to your other hand. And it's gone through your skin. Now that energy ball is sitting right there, and you have felt it travel from here all the way now to here. And do that until you feel it, until you feel like you're controlling that energy going from one place. You could stop it at an elbow, stop it here, but you're like, I know she's saying that, and I know my imagination is saying that, but I think I actually feel it too. That's the goal. Then the goal is bring that energy ball back here. Now see if you can get that energy ball to go down. For women, it'll be like you're birthing an energy ball. Okay. For a guy, you're going to get a bit of a tingly, you know what. Okay. But basically see if you can get that energy flowing and that you can literally feel it. Okay. And then the goal is, can you now bring that energy up? Can you stop it in certain places? It's now in my stomach area, or it's now really in my heart area, or it's in my throat area. It's going up, up, up until it's now birthed out of your head, but it's above you and you can kind of feel its presence right there. One of the first things, again, is a lot of individual self work that needs to be done so that you can feel the presence of this energy that is a part of us, around us. And even in you're talking about, as Sean was saying, if you want to get into the co-creative and how to manifest or whatever, you have to understand the energies of things and being able to, get energies to certain places and with focus to be able to cause certain intentions. So that's a simple exercise that I think, again, you do this alone. So, just do this to get the running of the energies. Can you now do this? If you can't, let's say I can't get it anywhere past here.
That means you're hitting a blockage, yeah.
So, and this is, again, some of the areas that before you're going to be able to use this Kundalini to have really good enhanced sexual experiences, okay, you're going to have to get the energy going in you better, okay? And so we have to start there if we're going to start this conversation, which then the goal is to lead to more pleasurable sexual, let's say. Because then you become more in control of it. And then some of these other arenas that we're talking about, which is about energies being taken or whatever, you'll notice it if it's starting to happen quicker, and by then you'll be starting to learn how to not let that happen. So, right. So first we got to kind of go back to the beginning of just feeling energies runs. And when I do anything, I don't know, honestly, guys, where your audience is at. I don't presume to, because I always think that there's new people joining that really don't know. And I always like to give an explanation and always like to give something that you can start to work on yourself just as a basics. Okay. So I wanted to first throw that out there.
But,
I appreciate that, Joanne. Go ahead, please continue, Chris.
What I hope you realize the entire time I had to hear Isaac laughing in the background the entire time.
I was waiting for him.
That's why I had to keep my face down like this. I could not shut up.
I love it.
So
Yeah.
that's why I was like this, because he was trying so hard to get me to start laughing. So it was like, but the truth of it is, though, with the base of the spine, what was ironic also with what I went through was I'd hurt my tailbone really badly when I got hurt in the accident back in 2009, where it bented in a weird, like almost like an L-shaped fashion. And I've had to spend years putting that back. Well, what was representative of that was in the base of the spine, you have a lot of records that are being held in the base of the spine. And that's also why some bad guys like to try to barcode it. They try to hijack it. They try to do all of this. They try to hijack the entire sacrum. There's a whole lot of records in there. What happens is, when I was straightening that back out, shut up, Isaac. All right, this I could hear him in the background. He's doing the Beavis and Butthead routine in the background. He's really loud today. All right, this is his show, evidently. But what I'm trying to get at is, with him shutting up a minute, he's so loud I can hear him inside my skull at the moment. But it's the more that I got that tailbone repaired, the more that information was accessible to me, of how to not only get rid of more of the addictive qualities of it, but then tap into more of the positive qualities of that. And I've noticed that the tailbone is completely back where it's supposed to be now. I managed to even get the cartilage back. I've regenerated cartilage where it was broken and everything. And it wasn't totally severed. It was like just bent, and I had to go to a chiropractor to get it put back. But as that was happening, the energies that came from it started to clear things, not only doing the same as what you were suggesting, you know, sending the ball of energy up through the head and everything like that, but it was clearing all the garbage that those negative entities and those strings from anything on the computer or anything like that got into my head. You see, there were strings that went along with it, and there were ties and bindings and entanglements that went along with it. And from the straightening of that, it started to get rid of more and more stuff that I didn't even know was even there, like records that were also trapped within that part of the sacrum that had to do with that personal evolution. And so that is actually, aside from his joking, that was actually a good exercise. I knew he was going to defile it in some fashion, but it was going to, but that is actually a good exercise. I've run my own energy through my own system like that before, where I'll be able to light up a different section of my body and see if there is a blockage of some kind. If I can't pass that energy, you know, line or ball or anything through a certain area, that means something is blocking it. And it could be information, it could be a being, it could be attachment, entanglement to another person. If you don't sever your ties to, say, a toxic element of another person that you had sexually, that will also keep reoccurring in this addictive loop. It could regenerate in someone else. You could be attracting all these other people that were similar to that person.
Can I just mention that? Well, I appreciate what you just said about attraction, because I was talking to somebody earlier about doing the show and about pheromones and how a certain scents that we wear, like colognes and heavy perfumes or lotions that are not natural or pleasing to the body, we disrupt our natural pheromones that we emit out. And therefore, we end up attracting partners that are definitely not, even close to being a match, right? Yeah. And then with some of the things like what Lily was talking about porn addiction and so forth. And I think that's important. I didn't mean to cut you off earlier, Lily, about the porn addiction.
That's okay. That's okay.
Maybe it was a trigger for me, because now that I think about it, like that's how I activated my Kundalini. I was fed up with relationships, and I start through self-pleasure and using porn to help me to be able to do my thing or whatever. And then I end up having a Kundalini activation, which I wasn't prepared for. It was a spontaneous, So
absolutely, and there's no need to apologize, sister. Don't even worry about it. I guess for me, I was just wanting to touch on it, not to dive into it and to make the show about it, but it is something that actually I think everybody in one way or another can relate to, because even if we as the personal individual don't have that addictive cycle with that kind of content, if we are engaging in encounters with lovers that have that addictive cycle, the other person is also going to have that crossover of parasitic energy attachments. So it's just kind of touching on that there. But I think before, if you want to revisit that later, we can. But I just want to go back to the exercise that you just went through, Joanna. I think it's really important for people to understand that Kundalini energy, whilst yes, it can be interconnected with sexual energy, it is not the definitive gatekeeper of the Kundalini activation. Yes, I have had Kundalini activations through sexual experiences myself, both alone and with a lover. But I've also had Kundalini activations from being at sacred sites and going into a deep meditative state. I've also had Kundalini activations from going to my Saturday night satsang. I go to a fortnightly chanting group. And the energy is so high vibrational, and they give me a platform to share my light language. And when I share my light language in this environment, it takes me to another realm, to the point that my teeth are vibrating. And people like, I'm looking at you, but I can't actually see you. I go into this super high density version of myself, where literally someone will be looking at me and talking to me, but they can't properly tune into this physical vessel, which is this body here, because the Kundalini is literally working its way through. And it's not even just the column. The way that I see it, for me personally, and it's not to say that this is how it is, but I see the two snakes, so the energetic coils going up the spine, but then they separate and they create the torus, and then they come back round and they go back up and they go round, and it's a super expansive. I think that coming back to your activity, Joanna, I really enjoy working with those types of activities myself too. And then also imagining those chi balls being able to go through those types of channels, but also to be able to go through the torus as a whole and make their way through all of the different layers of the energetic body as well. And a quick Google search for those that are not familiar with the layers of the energetic body can give you some really interesting things to start playing around with and start to be able to let yourself be able to explore. It's really quite awesome. I think the term for me, if people are finding it hard to visualize because they think they really need to see it like we're seeing each other right now, and I can guarantee you put in enough devotion, you will be able to see it as clear as day. But one of my mentors at the very beginning of my journey said that you just need to imagine it. Your imagination is the key to your psychic abilities. And that was something that was a real game changer for me, because it's not to take away from our psychic abilities and say that it's just imagination. It's like, no, use your imagination as your greatest friend and your tool, and then drop the term imagination and then allow that psychic sense, whatever terminology you'd like to use that you feel is better suited. So thank you for sharing that, because you're so right. We need the foundation of being able to feel the energy, move the energy, before we can really go on to any kind of tangent, because it's not strictly sexual. However, being able to move the energy can absolutely help you with not just your healing side of things, but also to enhance all avenues of your life, and definitely can enhance your sexual life in particular. I think there's been a big suppression for females, where they have really struggled to allow themselves, maybe that's not the right term, but females have had a big suppression where their sexual energy is something that they can feel sometimes uncomfortable with. But then there's also the contrast where there's also been some hypersexuality that can come in, where they feel the shame. And there's nothing wrong with being a sexual being. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. It is a beautiful energy that deserves to be honored, and we deserve to honor ourselves in those moments of playing with those energies. But yes, we do need to be careful to not be attracting some stuff that's not actually enhancing our energy. It's actually siphoning our energy, as Chris had touched on earlier.
It's being weaponized right now is what it's being,
yes.
Especially with the female sexual energy, since I notice it has a certain different potency to it. It too is being weaponized, and it's they're trying the ones doing the dark magic are trying to block the positive one coming in. It's essentially a blockage that's in disguise of something that's really awesome, and they're weaponizing that particular magic. In fact, they're weaponizing other areas, not just the energy siphoning. They're weaponizing words, they're weaponizing politics, they're weaponizing all these other things we don't need to mention here, but it's just but this specific area is one of the bigger weaponized areas. Once you clear that blockage out, and you can do this as a visual, just like what she did, but as a conceptual thing as well, seeing within the whole energetic etherics that's around you, if there's a blockage trying to get you hooked on to the negative aspect of this as well. And once you remove that, you're also going to see that the weaponization of it diminishes after that point.
Definitely.
Can I just say something real quick? And I do want to hear more also, Sean, because I know you have a lot to say, Sean, and we want to hear you for sure. You're well versed in this. I definitely know that. But I know also that so there's other people that I also have learned a great deal from, and one of which is Seven Bomar. I don't know if y'all are familiar with him, but there's one particular video that I think everybody on this planet probably would love, it would serve them well to watch, and where he talks about the divine feminine and how the feminine, women hold light in our wombs. And there are entities or right, that drain us or eat that light, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that happened to me. I was involved with somebody who, what's her name? Eve Lorgan. I think that's her last name. Evie Lorgan. She mentioned something about reptilian love bite scenarios. You guys are familiar with that. And
Yeah.
I was in a situation like that with somebody who I thought was, my life partner for the rest of my life, whatever. Felt very much at home. But I do know now that he was being used for another entity to come through and to have sex with me in order to drain my Kundalini energy and I guess, take the light, whatever. I didn't fully understand. I mean, I understand it better than I'm able to articulate it, but I get it. I understand it now, especially after having watched that show with Seven Beaumont. If I am able to find it, I will send it to all y'all. It's up to you if you want to have a look at it, but it's worth watching. So we do know that creation comes from our sexual energy and the Kundalini. And I will tell you that after I had the activation, everything I thought was creating and manifesting in my life. I was using telepathy. All my gifts were activated fully. And then I went, was targeted and so forth. And Chris, both you and Sean both have helped me with this. And I don't know that I'm fully back online, but I'm definitely coming back online. But that's through a lot of healing that I had to go through to overcome some of the blocks that I just wasn't ready for everything I wasn't ready. It's just that simple. And as much as I would like to say, oh no, I'm, the spiritual, all the bells and whistles of being awake and aware, I wasn't prepared for what was happening. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to have this show with you guys, because I think it's important. There are more people waking up daily, and some of which are going, I meet young girls. I do my best to mentor the best I can in my area, and people have a lot of questions. And I just noticed, especially with the younger generation, sex is, I guess it was like that for me too when I was their age. Sex is like a focal point. They're having sex with men and women. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with bisexuality. I had my own experiences with that. That's not what I choose for myself today. It was part of my development and finding who I am, what I am, so forth. But it just seems so much more, it's almost like a normal thing to go, out and hang out, get drunk and go home and have sex with men and women. Like, I don't know. It's just, I hear it. And it concerns me. I have young nieces and nephews, and I think that, of course, we know here that, these music videos and the music that they listen to and the videos that they watch and the things that they're attracted to, and, that we're constantly being bombarded with reaching outside of ourselves. And one of the biggest things that we reach for is good sex.
Yeah. And
the
thing that's put across is good sex with orgasm. That's what is the whole thing, is that sex is about an orgasm
right. And it's right.
It's so far beyond just an orgasm. And what even is an orgasm? You think it's the ejaculation part, it's the climax part. But when you tap into the sacred sexuality aspect of it, you come into these other realms of euphoria and sexual energy where you can be having the peak of an orgasm that can last hours, potentially, if you tap into those levels of heightened euphoria and ecstasy. And that a lot of that comes back to the breath and comes back to the moving of the energy and being able to actually be present within your body, yes, but also to be aware of the energy flowing through your body also as well.
Can we hear a little bit from Sean, if that's okay? Yeah.
I was going
Sean,
to actually,
I'll be right back. Sorry.
I was actually going to say that, Sean, what Ida just mentioned about the womb space and about having interference and having different, different versions of interference or implants, or, we touched on this topic in our last show, and you were actually going to take us through a little exercise that we could work on for healing our womb space when we have had interference from low vibrational energies or people, things, whatever it might be, magic trying to interfere with our womb space. Then we went off on a different tangent, which was another great topic that we've dived into. But I would love it if you're open to sharing with us what your take is on that, and maybe some of your wisdom on how people, females in particular, but also I know that there's some masculine energy that can be harnessed within that space too, but how can we clear our womb space from having some of these interferences?
Great topic. Okay, so yeah, a lot going on with that. There's mechanics, the energy mechanics, the underlying like internal, like the womb chakra goes into a place of power internally that usually the woman holds, but men I've seen rarely can have that too, where they can generate a whole bunch of energy infinitely from themselves to add to that creational point that then is engaged in creating a baby. There it goes into divine birthing and like summoning a very powerful multidimensional being that's part of a person's soul family, and then bringing them in to then change the world. A lot of the system of domination control doesn't want to have that, so they like to target it. Most people on the planet have their womb targeted in some way, shape, or form, and so like I don't really run into that many people that have it to the intensification of purity, and there's multiple layers, so don't let that discourage you, because the people are doing the best they can. When to purify, there's a lot of different methods. You can sage the undercarriage, you can go in, like Palo Santo also works really well, salt, silver, yoni eggs, going into like crystals of that like absorb or take the negative energy and put it into that zone, and then you put it outside in the sun or clear it or whatever, it's like taking buckets of water out of a boat kind of thing, and then until you clear it with what level it needs to generate things, because it's sealing away parts of its power till it feels safe. And a lot of the body works that way with like divinity and other stuff. It has to feel safe to come out, otherwise it gets hijacked into or tapped into and wounded, and the wound can last a really long time, which is its mechanism to stop that. Yeah, partners will go into that. This world is full of it's spiritually aware impotence with our generations that are purposeful to cut off that knowledge, and then the media starts cultivating that, and like since they're not into spirit, they're mostly into carnal desires and sensual pleasure, and the inverting of spirit and matter being on top of that in our satanic culture. So they're big on, like, the biggest thing that they see is sexual gratification. And that takes into polarity, which it doesn't have to be seen as bad, like dogmatized, polarized Catholicism kind of takes it into, which in its origin doesn't seem to go along with Christian values, especially nowadays. So the hijacking of that to purposely cut people off from their sexual power. I don't agree with that either, but like everything with moderation and balancing. It's mostly about detaching. So like you want to see the womb like a star, like a bunch of different energy centers, and a lot of things like to attach to creational force energy is one of the most targeted and harvested energy on the planet, because it the forces of evil are not creative at all. They have their creative mind shut down. They can't think of a single original thought. They have to steal it from everyone else. They might be good at mismatching things together, and a little bit if they're like balanced in some way, but like usually not. There's a lot of things to look for in detachment from the external desires, the things that want to influence us, influence what we create into this world, the life that we bring in this world, limiting it or influencing or changing it from the get-go. The spark of light that comes into the womb. So it's monitoring it, feeling into it, knowing when it's acting up based on symptoms and what comes out. And as much as you can, because like there's some deep powers that come with having a pure womb space. I've seen some very powerful people that have some interesting energies they're emitting all the time. They're generating a certain amount of energy. It's adding to their life. Like they can generate magic, source energy, divinity energy, all kinds of stuff if you get it to greater and greater purity and having to do with past lives of what you've used it with before. The things that I've seen in other lives and memory bleed over that people can do with sex, it can go as far as if divinity path beings coming together that make a ceremonial space that's extremely safe and nothing can steal from it, and they cultivate enough energy and go very slow into like the accumulation of energy to the peak of infinite. It's also like you can keep innocence. You don't have to lose anything. Like when you lose your virginity, that usually goes with like some predator trying to look in on the haunted people and then use the opportunity to take part of the innocent inner child, which leads to miracles. Taking that part of the miracles and having it survive into the future is very important. Like I've seen visions of people during the divinity path ages, like in old ancient pre-Mahabharata and the Indian epics, where people would be able to have sex and then teleport each other somewhere else, and then or levitate off the bed or whatever. So yeah, and orgasm can go very deep. It's like your deep connection with source. The brain lights up. You emit these huge Birkeland currents that come out of the top of your crown and the bottom of your root. And this is also used in sacred mystery schools, like in Egypt with the Ankh, and having it instead of go out the top of your head, having it go out like right angle 90 degrees out the back of the heart, and then it like goes into a current and back in, and then you use that to amplify how long you live, and the key leading to lasting life. Tapping greater into source, knowing, having intense pleasure that can last for a long time. Dopamine is a healthy part of the nervous system. There's different things that go into like a musical chairs type of thing. If you have a certain amount of like cortisol or whatever stress hormones that stop you from having as much dopamine, then that goes into like, oh, you only have a certain amount of chairs for this amount of hormone. So I think it's healthy to have dopamine as much. You can have it all the time, but it takes clearing up all the things that come up, and each emotion means something, because it's a part of the sacral. It's part of like your senses of awareness of things, and the greater you know about what emotions mean, the greater you can have it pass through and then transmute into something that makes you stronger and greater, and then go back into the state of optimal bliss and happiness and joy and pleasure. Joy means your sacral as at its peak of its game. So if you're in joy all the time, then that means everything in the flowing water nature of the human body is in harmony. It's great. So I know people that have had an orgasm that lasts long ass time, and like multiple like big peak orgasms, like ones that like last for days, like goes into psychedelic trips that like create visions for them, Kundalini activation kind of stuff like that, and shock Depop going into if you've heard stories about people that have taken like LSD or shrooms or something, and then the trip doesn't stop. Sometimes there's a thing with that where the person's heart like opens up like crazy and it doesn't stop or go down. If it's in a nice safe place and something's like, oh shit, and then tries to limit it down or something. If that doesn't happen, then if it keeps going and then the pleasure just doesn't stop and they can't do their work for a few weeks until like you know, that's possible. Not that everyone's ready for that, and being ready for something, barely anyone's ready for anything. I mean, this world is barely ready for anything, and it's still like a state of perception. It's like sometimes you just gotta jump off the cliff because we'll never feel like we'll be ready. And then what is ready? Like being able to deal with stress and challenges and negativity, or even other beings that don't want to do us harm or steal or stuff. Like a lot of things see creational force and Kundalini energy as very valuable. So I've also seen a bunch of clients that have had it and then they stopped having it, or they had a bunch of negative experience and then stopped having it. And it seems to go along with like something targeting their Kundalini and limiting their function, adding pain, or then eventually stealing it from them, which is never truly gone. It still has a connection. It's more of like a draining, like they're trying to keep it on in the person's body, but like have it drained off to them, and then they use it for something negative. Kundalini means a bunch of things. It doesn't just mean snake stuff, or like what a lot of Christians like, oh, it's a snake stuff. Like the caduceus, the brazen serpent in the Bible. It goes into just a concept of currents going up the spine, Pingala, like links to the nasal passages, and the Shiva and Shakti, and it's mostly like going into the feminine current of Shakti, which also links to Earth. So it's, you can literally see it as an aspect of Earth that is triggering the body, is your own aspect of divine feminine and yin to come up the spine in a great like eruption. And there's multiple variations of how big this can be. So it doesn't have to be like huge. And Kundalini yoga goes into the process of like taking the greatest hits of different types of yoga masters and brought into a system. And not everyone likes the main teacher that's going into now, because he had some things with his path, you know, he being seen as like, oh, you're abusing women, or using your career to get women or whatever. You know, remove the teacher. He's just taking his stuff from other masters. And so like these masters did not give this away to people for free, and they didn't want people to give it away for free. So this guy did. So whatever, you have it. Detach from them, then go into detaching from the serpent stuff. Okay, go into the earth and rising your own orgasmic energy. There's different types. There's even gone to a big one I have experienced, like the dragonic force, which is like a huge, like it's not much else to say, huge elemental programming awareness, like a dragon rising and roaring outward. There's also a lot of these have to do with founder races or species that added to our genetics, and like foundation of this planet, foundation of solar system, galaxy, etc. And like white lion, there's I've seen a phoenix force go up the spine. There's a unicorn one. There's like some different ones for different things. There's a giant turtle one having to do with safety. There's some cool ones. So different people will have different things dormant as like a egg or a seed, like a cosmic egg in their tailbone and spine, waiting for it to erupt. And you have to make it feel safe, talk to it, because it can speak to you, and take care of whatever it's needs resolving, to go up the mystery school of the chakras up the spine. You can do it slowly or you can do it fast. Yeah, it usually does the fast one when it does unexpectedly or surprisingly, because it doesn't want things to limit it, because they have the warning.
Don, I just want to ask you a quick question, and I love listening to you because, I mean, both you and Chris, just absolutely fascinating information. Y'all never surprised. I mean, it's just always amazing to listen to you. I'm curious to know, as far as like the body being used as a portal for entities to come through sex. Do you know anything about that? Either one of y'all? Mind talking? Yeah.
Yeah, I've encountered that myself, where sometimes beings will enter into you to experience that, whether they're on either side of the spectrum. I've noticed that where they want to experience something, and I usually tell them all, no, you can't do that. I'll just say, no, you can't do things like that. Oh, I see it as a violation. But yeah, I've had beings use the insides of me as a portal to try to come through. This is also why when I do channelings, I always use this large crystal to have them go through instead. So I use that, and then I put it out in the sunlight to cleanse it afterwards. I always tell them they cannot they cannot use me, during the channelings. But yes, during sex, yeah, I've had this happen as well, where different beings will want to experience that or siphon it. And I always tell them, if they're a benevolent one and they want to experience that, they have to do that in their own way. They have to find a way to come here to experience that, instead of going through someone. Some of them just want codes. Some just want the experience so that they can pass that on to wherever they came from too. Either in a positive or a negative way. I've experienced the entire spectrum all between there.
And Sean mentioned, he mentioned the good side of it when you're using the womb, for trying to bring through a benevolence that's for the greater good in that sense.
Yeah.
But that same womb, depending on the intention of the people involved, I mean, if they're, you can certainly push through, souls that are going to come in for a greater good. You can certainly, with the intention of the people that are around you, create the same energy to maybe push through something that would be for some people's desires, but for other people's, I wouldn't necessarily say it's for the greater good. That womb is a way in, you know what I mean? And depending on what you want, as well as when you think of sexual and the building of the sexual energies, again, you could be within just a small group or having a large group of people build a sexual energy to aid in pushing whatever you want to come through. It can be done literally in a etheric birthing of something, even not having a physical baby come out, an etheric birthing that way. Yeah, or some people, I hate to use the word cauldron, but I don't know what way to visualize, where there's actually a substance that's also involved in this, that a birthing where sometimes people are immersed into a substance and allow them for something to birth up out of it, let's say.
Yeah.
It's that energy can be utilized in a lot of different ways, depending on the intention of the people wanting it to be used, and or an unknowing person who is accidentally participating in something they don't understand that they're participating in. Because again, like we've said, you can have one of the worst, not so good for you entity look like the most beautiful angel, okay, that looks good, and they can hold it for a little bit. They can hold that energy, and you're thinking you're dealing with something that obviously you're willing to participate in, because in your mind you're doing one thing, but in their mind, and they're the ones actually utilizing your energy, they're the ones in control, and you don't realize it doing something else, and you've accidentally participated in something.
There was also an incident that's happened years ago with a being that I knew and a person that I knew, that you know, she had said that her root chakra had become completely shut off and dead. And she thought this was, oh, this had to do with age. And I went, no, this doesn't sound right to me. And a being that I had been interacting with at that time, which we thought was good, was making it look like he was trying to reactivate this. What in fact he was doing was tapping in again through the back end of the spine like a portal, siphoning that energy out, and then telling her, saying, oh no, this is dead now. This is no so normal. It's supposed to be shut off right now. He was a lying sack, is what he was. But what happened was what he did was he would regurgitate that energy back out, put it back, so that she'd have some creepy thoughts surrounding that, therefore being completely turned off by the experiences altogether. So therefore she wouldn't try to manifest her mate. And what ended up happening was that got diffused after a while. But what happened was, what he would take in the more purified sexual energy, swirled around in him, add his own codes back to it, and then created the more perverted dark garbage. And this was more of like a Dark Orion type of thing. But this is essentially what he was doing. And then he'd re-steal it, regurgitate it back, and keep doing this process until eventually we stopped him. But it was he participated in doing this to me in a different way. Although he was one of those very beings that did this. You know, he was the only male one that was doing this, and all the others were female. But he was also a shapeshifter that would go back and forth as well, and was doing this to me, but in a slightly different manner than he did to her. And that was where a portal was being used. It was essentially the tailbone going into the sacrum. It would use as like that blender. He was trying to use it almost like a blender or like a food mixer, essentially, and hijack. In that sense, he couldn't do it himself. He would hijack somebody else's, take it, put it back, and keep doing that cycle. And that's how these beings, like you said, Sean, they're not that creative, but he was creative enough to combine two things together and constantly do this constant infinity cycle that was going back and forth like this. He was a one-trick pony, so that's really all he could think of. But it was, but eventually I figured him out and got rid of it. But this, at the time we were thinking it was a natural process, but he was bastardizing a completely sacred process is what he was doing, and essentially was more or less a vampire. But that's how the human body was being used as a portal that it created, that brought in that more gross energy and regurgitated it back so that he could take it in and spit it out over and over again. But that's the negative side. And the positive side is where beings will interact with that energy with you. Sometimes they'll channel through you and want to experience certain things as well, not just sexual. But I've even told the good beings, it's like, yeah, I understand your position, but try to either come into our reality or try to come into our form in some way to experience it that way.
So if I can take a second, I just want to go back to a couple things that were said. When you were discussing and asking the question on what in the world's going on with the teenagers these days, all these things are focused on sexuality, they're focused on this. And then Sean described something that we describe in a little bit different way. I appreciate how you described it, where there's an attempt to take what you would think were the lower chakras, if they look like this, and kind of flip it on its head. And so there's a false sense of ascending to something you really don't want to, because you get stuck there, versus ascending properly, let's say up the chakras and out. It's kind of like got stuck in reverse now. The way that we've described it is that, like, right under the heart chakra, there's like this block there, and it takes the energies and then it just turns it right back down again. But I actually appreciate the way that Sean was describing it. So every generation that's born in, you have to think, for the vast, not everybody, but for the vast majority of us, we've done it 1,000 times, 2,000, 3,000. We come back in, hopefully with the knowledge, whether we realize it or not, that we've had before, that we're tapped into. So our goal is to expand something even more, right, than the generation, let's say, before us, because we're individually in expansion, we're culturally in expansion. It's all kind of interweaved together. The one discussion that hasn't happened here that I just want to bring in really quickly is the word that's been used, but I don't think is understood well, is the word love. So in a broader sense, over time, we're going to expand in what our understanding of what LOVE means in that energetic co-creating kind of way that we have an understanding now, but it expands. So the way that I understand, and I may lose a lot of people here, listening, but if you have to understand that not just in a sexual mode, I know we're talking about co-creative energy is in a sexual mode, but forget that. As an in general statement, you are an energetic being and you co-create. Just accept that. If you can just accept that, then what you have to understand that what LOVE means, as if you think infinite intelligence or all source energy, however you want to define the wholeness of everything we're in, who we are, everything around us, the infinite intelligence of it all. Then you have your infinite energy. And how is your infinite energy then going to create with an infinite intelligence? That expands, and the desire to want to create with infinite intelligence and play around with it is what LOVE means. So our thoughts of that expand over time as our abilities expand over time. So someone can love me and want to be with me and interact with me and do things with me and be in LOVE, but another person could be in LOVE with nature. And it means as much to them as it is, that someone else chooses me, or much to them that they LOVE growing plants, or as much to them as LOVE other animals and the interactions. And again, it's not, and it's very important to understand, as we've been trying to say, these energies are not just a sexual energy.
That's right.
That most people are normally thinking about. So it would be expected that new souls coming in wanting a broader experience would be pushing the boundaries of what that LOVE word means and the experiences and their encounters. It's complicated because of what we said earlier, a natural desire to expand in thought, but with the resistance of something, a force that doesn't want you to expand, and how can it kind of get in there and mess things up or pervert it a little bit or whatever's going on. But that in and of itself is an experience, because we have to also grow knowing that all of this exists. And how do we better, are we better going to be our sovereign self and be able to have the experience that we want? Part of it is knowing that all of this other exists. So I don't want to, I'm, like I said before, we're all about knowledge is power here, more so in understanding all of this, so that you can take what I would say are the baby steps to moving and clearing and understanding it better and doing small things that prove to you, rather than the jump just to boom, I want all the energies rolling really well, because then honestly, you're not ready for it because you don't know how to maintain it either. You don't, it's an accident. You don't know how to make all of that. You don't even know really what just happened. And again, and I love, Sean, how you were talking about a person who had the orgasm for weeks and they're just hanging out in their bedroom now, still having their orgasm. And now somebody else has to take out the trash on a daily basis because, he can't function, right, in regular society. And right, because he can't control it either. He's just having an experience of some energy runs, but he's not really, and good for him. He can have that. I'm not saying that. But I think as we learn and grow, the grow is to, to be able to have these experiences and to better our energies and to do things, but to also do it on this planet as we learn and grow with a communal people around us. And how do we function in it, get along better? How do we deal with, again, as you were saying, just the pheromones, right? So pheromones, there's nothing wrong with pheromones, but as we change in our vibrations, we're probably not as attracted to certain pheromones as we maybe are to a different vibration with a person with a slightly different pheromone. So all that changes anyway, naturally.
Like the charisma to that pheromone. Oh, yeah.
Right. So all of that ends up changing. So, I think it's important. So the one thing, again, when we talk about, well, I don't understand this still, how does it make me feel? And if you get away, again, we've talked a lot about sex, but just let's go back to the basics again. I think it's important for people to say, well, Kundalini and being in that excited and I'm having this great orgasm all the time is not currently reality for most people on this earth.
Right.
If you have an energy run where you feel really great and powerful and in tune and it doesn't stay, you haven't done anything wrong, and I appreciate, and you haven't lost it, which is what Sean said as well, which I completely agree. You've just kind of tapped into that energy flow. It's not gone. It hasn't gone anywhere. But first of all, you have to think of your energies as like little lint brushes. It's always, we're always picking up stuff that we have to pay attention to and have to clear. But to give people an idea, and I hope everybody can add to what I am saying, well, what does it feel like when you have had a good energy run and there's more? It may not be, I'm having the, right now, I'm not talking the orgasm, but just a good energy run where things are flowing well. What does that feel like? Well, it's going to feel different. You could potentially feel different, but there, I think, are a few commonalities. First of all, if you do the little exercise I was talking about, and you can run all those energies, you may notice when you're done the room, you feel a little bit lighter. There's something a little bit different about how you feel right now than maybe you did before, that there's a little bit more lightness. You may be feeling a little tingly. You may actually feel like I'm looking through my eyes, but I swear the back of me is much bigger. I'm feeling much bigger. Right? A connectedness to a bigger part. So I think it's important also to help people understand, because it's one of the pet peeves I've had. It's just like somebody saying to you, you need to lose weight. Well, if I knew how to lose weight, I'd be thin and beautiful. What does that mean? What does that look like? Tell me, right? Give me something. So I like to try and give people something about what does that mean? You may not take things as personally as you did, right? Your ego is kind of maybe a little bit more in check. You're able to flow through and let other people have their thoughts and feelings and not take things as personally. So because again, you have expanded, the energies are running right, and your connection of your soul into your body has changed a little bit, right? So you are feeling. Now, a lot of people have had moments of that. They don't know that they've had moments of that because, again, tends to be right now moments. And then when the kids start arguing in the back room, or you hear your colleagues arguing or whatever, kind of all dissipates, right? It kind of all gets dulled down because, boy, they're dragging you back to the real world. Then the goal is working on the energies and keeping them running to try and stay at, how long can I stay at this? And that's the work in progress, cleaning of the energies, and keeping all that. And then again, other areas will expand as well. You may magically, people are coming to you with problems and you seem to magically know the right thing to say because you're more in tune, you're right, with being able to provide that information to them. These are the things that I feel are very important for people to know, that is Kundalini running properly through your system. And that, again, what tends to happen is what I call the mythos that I had it, meaning I'm there all the time. No, you're not. And the fact that, people get into shame, so they're going to say they're constantly there when they're not. And you know what I mean? And all of this is going to happen. So we need to, I always say a lot of these doctrines in these books, they're fabulous, but it's the book world versus the real world.
And also your system has to get used to that energy flow as well. Like a muscle memory, it has to get used to that particular way of being, while also kind of staying grounded in the whole experience here as well, keeping it all moving. And also, I want to point out the fact that you were pointing at me and saying he earlier, that when you were
I
saying,
love Chris.
is it
I
a
love
song?
it. I love these two. Okay, just real quick, guys. So we need to end at 3. I don't think that we had enough time. Maybe we can get together again, do another round table. I definitely would love that because I love coming together and co-creating this space and learning from one another. And by learning from one another, we're able to help others learn from us, or at least plant the seed where they will do their own self-reflection, introspection, and research. I mean, you guys have great channels. They can definitely reach out to y'all. I mean, I'm a newbie in this, and I'm not looking to be, queen of the hill over here. I'm okay right where I'm at. And if it's, grows, that's lovely. But I just love having you guys on. So we have we have 13 minutes. We have to end at 3:00. So let's, can we plan to do another one? I know you guys don't,
I think that would be absolutely awesome.
Sean,
if
come on, Sean.
Open.
Say yes, Sean.
Reel you in.
Are you willing to come back and join us again, Sean?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Sean was the one who was brave enough to put out the large scroll of all the topics related to this, and it was
right. So that we surely can't leave people hanging with that.
Yes, take me down that rabbit hole with you.
Well, how would you guys feel? So Eric Rains and I chat, and I had asked him. He doesn't know who Chris is. I know he's had some interaction with Sean, but Eric Rains is, definitely on the same caliber of gifted as you two. And if I could get him to join us, that would be great. If not, I definitely want to have, I want to do this again, and maybe we can plan, and maybe after, I don't know, after Thanksgiving, before Thanksgiving. I mean, y'all's schedule is so much more, going on than mine, busier than mine. I live a pretty simple life, or we can plan, I can make arrangements with him and see about the second week of November before Thanksgiving. So I'll reach out to y'all about your schedule, first off. Second off, before we end, I don't think there's ever, definitely please share information, contact information. We'll make sure that it's put in the comment section for anybody that might be interested in reaching out for sessions with either of you or with Miss Lily, because Lily is now doing her online stuff as well. I want everybody to, people to have access to y'all's information if they're interested in reaching out for sessions. And then
really quickly.
Sure.
So sorry to interrupt. I know that there were quite a few people that were wanting to get some information talking about using sex magic.
Right. We didn't get to,
Yeah, that's okay. We've got space, we've got time, we'll make it happen.
Right.
But if anyone is wanting to dive into, in particular, there are a lot of people wanting to talk about using self-pleasure to manifest and being able to co-create using sexual energy. If that's something that people are wanting to explore, then please definitely reach out. That is something that I'm really looking forward to exploring with all of you. As well, to get everyone else's take. But there's been some really powerful downloads that have come through over the last really 3 months in particular that I just I've got my posse of guides behind me. They're like, Lily, you just need to quickly mention this because it's important.
Well, that's where I wanted to go with this show was that, but that's okay. It is what it is. And thank you for bringing that up, because I was definitely
right now, we know that our world is in a state of chaos. We know that there's some really big shifts going on, but there's actually a really, really, really potent opportunity for us to be able to co-create using not necessarily just sexual energies, but to be able to co-create using the plethora of the Kundalini energies and co-creating together. There's some ancient wisdom that is coming through right now, and it is available to everybody. It's just about understanding some of the keys of how to unlock that and how to be able to enter the right ceremony, how to hold the right space, and then to be able to go through the motions of actually tapping into that and co-creating with like-minded souls that are willing to explore that energy. So
yeah, that was actually very interesting that you brought that up. I'll add real quick though. Yeah, you can actually visualize, what you want your partner to be, how you want them to, exactly, you're co-creating that way. You even brought that up to me many years ago in private, something similar to that. Bringing up, visualizing the whole experience and basically grounding that as a manifestation. Yeah.
In particular, for me at the moment, something that's really big is birthing higher timelines, and something that I've been guided is some real beautiful ancient wisdom that has come through that is right on the topic of what we've been discussing tonight. So using the womb space to birth timelines is some powerful, potent stuff, definitely.
That's absolutely, yeah. So we all can agree that the next show that we will focus more on, because I try not to interfere. Of course, I do sometimes. I might put my fingers up because I want to say something. By the time I get that opportunity, I'm off to another thing and I get a little, but I do my best to keep things on track. So let's really, I'm so excited for this show. Joanne, thank you for joining us this time. Your input is so valuable. I appreciate you. You're such a, if I could say this without being offensive, a mama bear. You're so nurturing and loving and very practical and grounded and helpful, and being able to express yourself the way you do, and it's well received. Thank you. You guys are awesome. We are, so again, I'm gonna reach out to everybody to work out the next date. We will, for everybody that's gonna be listening, because right now we don't have anybody live watching. If we do, I'm not seeing it. But it will go on my YouTube channel. You guys are welcome to, of course, share it on your channel. I'll send you the link, or make sure Katie gets it to you. Share your contact information if you don't mind quickly. We'll get that out. And then we will, everybody, please come back and join us. We'll go part 3, and we will definitely be talking more focused on Kundalini energy, sexual manifestation through what Lily had mentioned. She said it better than I did, or am. Lily, manifesting through self-pleasure or through with a partner.
Yeah, just
but in a sacred way, not in a way that is,
really using your sacral energies to co-create and manifest all kinds of different things within our lives.
Yeah. Okay, so Kristen, Joanne, please share your information, then Sean, and then Lily, and then we'll end it.
Yeah, the one thing I just heard Isaac blurt out going, "Oh, that's what they're calling it now." Okay, I just heard him back there, but it's like, of course, he had to chime in there at the last second.
Just crack up. Tell Isaac we all said we love you, Isaac, and you're welcome to join us anytime.
Yeah, hopefully on the next one he'll talk, because he won't shut up for an hour if you let him talk. But it's but our information is, if anybody wants to get in contact with us, they can either go through the website, thelifting.net. That's one word, thelifting.net, or they can get a hold of us at our email, thelifting2017@gmail.com.
Thank you, Chris. And Sean, please.
I'm Sean Bond. You can reach me at sacleague.com and Sac League YouTube, and I'm also on Facebook. And feel free to contact me for sessions and consultations, and we got products that will be going up for meditations and things. And if you, I guess depending on what we make in these shows and like what we don't cover, I'll try to make like sacral technology products based on all the things that people are dealing with, and like how the unawakened culture can get out of sexual addictions and other things. So let me know if you want more of that, and I'll, depending on how popular it is, then I'll have motivation to do it. But,
You're awesome.
Beautiful. You can get me on Facebook, which is Lily Hayes. You can get me on email, which is lilyhays.adl@outlook.com. And you can also get me on Instagram, which is spirit.mama.adl. But thank you all so much. And yeah, if you're wanting to book sessions or you're wanting to explore some of the topics that we've been working through tonight, looking for light body activations or have sacred land that you're wanting to co-create some magic with, definitely reach out. It'd be an honor to work with you all.
Very good.
Thank you, guys.
You guys, thank you so much for coming on. This is
Thank you.
just, it's such a joy and a pleasure to have you guys. I feel honored. I'm looking forward to the next one, and I will reach out. We'll get a date set, and everybody that, you know, that works for everyone. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a blessed day, everyone. We'll
Okay.
see you next time. Very good.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.